Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, proudly hosted by PS Global Consulting and Oracle NetSuite, with the topic AI Agents Meet ERP, the next evolution of enterprise operations. I'm Ayu, your MC for today. Here's what we have lined up for you guys. We will learn how AI agents are reshaping business operations and decision making, and we will discover the importance of clean data, structured workflows, and connected business processes. And we will understand the practical steps for you to start your AI journey. And our speakers for today would be Michelle Afonso, the CEO of PS Global Consulting, Davinder Singh, Principal Engineer of PS Global Consulting, and Dr. Kenny Hong, Director Solution Consulting of Oracle NetSuite. This webinar will be running in 30 minutes. Feel free to submit your questions throughout this webinar via the Q&A chat, and our speakers will answer it during the Q&A session later. And this webinar is being recorded, and we will send the recording to all of the participants after the webinar. Okay, so without further ado, let's begin. Please join me in welcoming Michelle Afonso, CEO of PS Global Consulting. Over to you, Michelle.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome and thank you so much for joining us today. I understand we have some people dialing in from Singapore, KL, Jakarta, and Bangkok. So really thank you for all joining us today. And I'm so glad that everybody is here. My name is Michelle, as you had introduced me, and of PS Global Consulting and NetSuite. It's really my pleasure to welcome you here and to open this session today. So for today's webinar, I would say that right now we're really genuinely in an interesting moment in the space of AI. The conversation around AI has moved very quickly. We started out from, I would say, a place of curiosity, what is this, what can it do, to a little bit of experimentation, to what we see today as, people asking very real questions about how can we actually make this work for our business, right? Instead of just, something on the side that we're playing with and experimenting with. So as finance leaders, right, you sit at a very important position during this phase of the business. You are responsible for numbers, but more importantly, you are responsible for decisions that come out from those numbers that are being reported, right? And I think what we're seeing with AI is not just an automation of certain processes or workflows that you might have, but it's basically the concept of having better information at your fingertips at a much faster pace than what you were used to before. And so with that, we are hoping that, not just the finance team, but the bigger organization as a whole will be able to make smarter calls with greater confidence. And so while we are looking at the AI conversation, right, I think one thing that is, there's a lot of bells and whistles and things that are very exciting, but one thing that sometimes gets overlooked is AI is only as good as the systems and data that it has access to. And that's exactly why today we decided that, this might be a good topic to talk about with all of you guys here, right? Which is the convergence of AI agents and the ERP. Why this combination, right, of AI as well as a strong source of data in your ERP will be very essential in terms of you unlocking the potential of AI for your business. So over the course of this webinar today, our speakers who will come on in just a little bit will walk you through, what AI agents are, and more importantly, why the ERP that sits at the heart of your business is extremely important consideration for any serious AI strategy. Okay, so I think with that, right, I do strongly encourage everybody to, drop any questions that you have. The link provided, right? We'll make sure we get back to them at the Q&A session later. And with that, I would like to hand back over to Ayu. Let's get into it. And thank you so much for your time here with us today.
All right. Thank you so much, Michelle, for the opening. Great introduction. And now let's move to our next speaker, Please join me in welcoming Davinder Singh, Principal Solution Engineer of PS Global. Over to you, Davinder.
All right, thank you so much, Ayu, and thank you again, Michelle, for that opening. I'm just gonna share my screen, and I guess maybe Ayu, if you could tell me when everyone sees my screen, and then we should be able to start.
Yes, it's all good to go.
All right, excellent. Again, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Davinder, and it's a pleasure to be here with you. Today, I thought that it would make sense, since we're talking about AI, right? Maybe to talk about a practical AI playbook for ERP users, ERP leaders, and also users who want to understand how maybe PS Global has actually adopted AI throughout our operations. So, oh, sorry, give me a sec. For some reason, that has stopped. Let's try that again. Okay, all right. So what we're seeing right now, right, is that before we even talk about AI and implementation, we need to really understand how finance and many other teams and departments are actually working in a way with what we would term as something as the wrong kind of work. Because we understand that routine tasks will never end. We need to do manual reconciliation, we need to do approvals and repetitive transactions like journal entry. These are transactions that are going to be there every single day, every single week, every single month. And in many cases, they never end, so to speak. Secondly, is that we always have that scenario where we have data that we cannot really trust in a sense. And we end up having inconsistent formats. And we go back to our old friend called Excel, which is spreadsheets. And then we end up doing all those work outside of the system and then within a bunch of spreadsheets as well. And indirectly, what happens is that we actually see a case where financial close becomes a little bit more extended, because that month-end close now becomes stretched, and it is becoming a bit more difficult to get accurate time. And too many times we spent doing a lot of firefighting and managing exceptions. So what we've noticed here is that in terms of critical insight, these aren't really necessarily a technology problem. Fundamentally, it's not a technology problem. These are process as well as data problems. So AI will be able to come in, and AI can actually manage this in a meaningful manner, but only after the underlying ERP, data, and other structures are in place. And that's basically what today's session is all about, right? So these are not technology problems, these are process and data problems that we understand it as it is. So we'll move on to the next slide, and we'll look at how can AI actually help us in these identified areas. There are a lot of areas, and I think in the following slide, when we share with you what PS Global actually uses AI for, you'll see it a little bit more. But in general, right, we've actually picked maybe 3 areas to look at. So for example, automating routine tasks, right? But this will require what we call structured workflows, right? Approval process, posting logics. These have to be well defined so that AI can actually do it reliably. Now, you may be thinking, hold on, RPA, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, robotic process automation, RPA, could already do this, and it could already automate routine tasks. So this is where AI comes in and adds an extra layer. And I do have a couple of examples after this, where it can actually do some inference for you. So if you don't have the fields mapped correctly, RPA will fail. But with AI, it can actually infer that maybe you wanted a different value or a different field or even a different matching information. So that's where we can actually automate routine tasks. Now, we can also improve data accuracy. And in order to improve data accuracy, kind of like a chicken and egg thing, we actually need to have clean master data and also clean transactions. So this is where ultimately we need to have a single source of truth, right? Ensure that the data that we have actually ties back to what we need. And lastly, as the earlier side mentioned, you're spending too many hours on your financial close. So we need to be able to actually help you to do the accelerated financial close. This is actually something achievable if we can actually analyze your transaction history. So these transaction histories end up with patented data. And I think Dr. Kenny will have a session later. We'll talk about that as well. And this is going to help us to look at the automation embedded in it. So we'll be able to see how that looks like exactly in practice via NetSuite's native AI capabilities. And what we'll be covering today is how you can actually build on that foundation and then make that possible. So I'll just move on to where PS Global has actually seen AI come into play across the entire implementation cycle. And not just that, right? We actually add value to every stage of our implementation. So we've simplified it down to about 4 pillars. We look at the pre-sales and discovery. We look at solution design. We looked at building and testing. We look at go live and handover. So in each of these pillars, we've actually looked at how AI is able to deliver meaningful value much earlier than just go live. So we're always focused on go live, having AI, hey AI, what's my, P&L, what's my balance sheet, who are the top 5 customers, who are my top 5 vendors. That's after go live. But we're looking at it now even well before go live. So for example, in pre-sales and discovery, we're using AI to understand pain points that are very crucial to your operation and your business. Smarter discovery questions. I know my marketing team said, hey, that's a spelling error. But normally we're pretty smart when it comes to discovery questions, but we want to be a lot more smarter in terms of looking at those discovery and then guiding our clients to understand further why we're asking these questions. We want to try to understand prospectively how can we build some intelligence around those prospects, and then of course from solution design, gap analysis, customized scoping, requirement structuring. In terms of building and testing, we can actually now generate test scripts. Those test scripts can be very accurate. We need not sit down and draft a lot of UAT and testing scripts. You can actually do that through AI itself, prepare some form of documentation, do our knowledge transfers, and also to some extent work with handover guides. So these are, again, a consistent team that we have across all 4 phases. And that consistent team is that AI is able to actually handle the repetitive and structural work. So that frees our consultants, our human consultants, so to speak, in order to focus on judgment, client relationship, and also quality control. And I think that's a very important statement. So, we don't want it to seem like, there's only 2 people in the back end and everything is being done by a bunch of AI. So that's not true. We do have a number of consultants that sit through all these projects, and their role now is actually to look at the quality control of the activities that we actually have. So this is our internal approach on AI. So it's very well just not just at go live, but even after. Now, I also wanted to share something that you may have already started hearing about, which is actually vibe coding. So what's vibe coding? It's basically writing some prompts and then having AI build something for you. Could even be a finished web application, mobile application, and so forth. But we see AI vibe coding not so much as taking away the job of the developer, but actually more of a development accelerator. So we are seeing that value in-house definitely. And essentially what that does is that it actually reduces the barrier for customization. Now, it doesn't take the customization completely off the plate of the developer. You still require a developer in order to review. AI will, give you a ton of code, but you still need someone who understands that code in order to actually manage that. So it's a shift in terms of how software gets built. Developers and even some non-developers, technical and non-technical people are able to actually describe what they need. AI generates a working starting point, and then a human will refine and reiterate. So again, we can't just go ahead and remove all our developers, because the developers are still required. But the goal now is that if someone wants to articulate what they want to build, how they want to build it, we can actually do that quite easily via AI as well. So within the ERP space, within the technology space, we can actually now start to do a lot more faster prototyping. We can actually have non-technical consultants to also participate actively in those technical designs. And scoping can be reduced. Developing, writing code, I think we still need some time as well. So I'm going to show very briefly some case studies that we're working on internally at PS Global. The first one is a commodity pricing and analysis plus NetSuite inventory and assembly BOM costing. So here's a fictitious scenario. You've got a lot of inventory, commodity items. The price in the market keeps changing. You need to update NetSuite with pricing. You need to look at your inventory and assemblies. You need to look at your bill of materials and your work orders. So what we could do is that we can actually set up a listening post. And that listening post maybe, for example, listens for palm oil cost, wheat flour, maybe potato and onion. These are all commodities that you actually have. You can actually look at the pricing based on those indices that we can actually pull. Some indices might be paid, so we'll have to work with you on that. We can then look at a comparison in terms of what's inside NetSuite versus what's on that commodity index. And in a way, right, what we end up seeing is that, for example, let's say you're using standard cost in NetSuite, 2,200 ringgit, but the current price may be here, right? The current market price is about 4,000 ringgit. So should we go in and update or adjust our standard cost in NetSuite from 2,000 to maybe 4,000? So that kind of averages out. But at the same time, it looks like we're absorbing about 2,000 plus ringgit of cost. So this is something that we pull in real time, review, AI analyzes it, and then pushes it back to NetSuite if you approve it. Secondly, is a vendor bill import via AI integration. So this is similar. So instead of the RPA style where we do mapping, what we now do is that we build that framework, you upload the data, you tell AI based on a confidence threshold. Based on that threshold, it analyzes the vendor bills, maybe via PDF or image. It then imports anything that passes that threshold can be posted to NetSuite. Anything that's not passing that threshold will say, for example, I can't find the item record, I can't find the vendor bill. That then looks at it quickly and then analyzes it. And then AI will say, I've learned that mapping. So this is something that we actually see quite beneficial rather than just traditional RPA, because it actually reads and learns mapping, similar to data migration issues. So if you've got data migration issues, customer, chart of accounts, vendors, we can leverage AI to do what we call ETL, export, transform, and load, transform that data, and then import it into NetSuite. I see that I might be running out of time, so let me just skip through the next two slides. So this is, I think, something that Dr. Kenny and the Oracle NetSuite team will be talking about, the embedded AI within NetSuite. So I'm going to skip this slide and then make sure that Dr. Kenny has his session. And we talked about earlier on, clean master data, right? Structured workflows, transactional histories. And just before I wrap up, and I apologize for moving a bit faster, just want to give you 3 quick takeaways. So number one, AI is going to amplify your ERP and also your operations. It's not just going to replace it lock, stock, and barrel. You still need to look at the highest frequency, lowest judgment tasks. This is where AI are the low-hanging fruit. And ultimately, before you continue, you need to fix those processes, operations, and so forth before you apply AI, because clean data, governed workflows and structures, this is actually going to help you as well. Okay, with that, I say thank you very much, and hope to continue speaking to you throughout this session as well. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Davinder, for the actionable demo insights from you. So now moving on for the other highlights of today's session, we're excited to invite Dr. Kenny Hong, the Director of Solution Consulting of Oracle NetSuite. Dr. Kenny, over to you.
Thank you so much, Ayu. Thanks, Davinder and Michelle as well. I would like to start by picking up where Davinder left off, right? He mentioned a few keywords which I think are critical. Number one is to have an AI strategy in place. And then, of course, the big thing, which is the data itself. And what's important is we have a unified system, but in the center of the unified system is the price, which is your business data. We think that the best AI will work on the best data. And why is that so? That's because all of your different departments, different operations are all centered around your key business data. If you look at the NetSuite, we have over 1,000 business objects capturing data across the suite. And if you dive a level deeper, there's over 10,000 connection points between these objects. And AI is not exactly a new technology from a perspective of NetSuite. We started this years back with the introduction of classic AI. That's the capability to do predictive forecasts, right? Then we can do also exception management and intelligent item recommendations, for example. With generative AI, that truly brought AI to the mainstream with capabilities to do, all the generation of content based on existing data. And we have some examples that I'll show shortly. Now we spend a lot of time developing and pushing the boundaries of AI in terms of agents, AI agents, and that will also demonstrate one example after this. If you look at the positioning of all the AI technologies within NetSuite, the key point to note is that the AI is embedded within the solution itself. And the three broad categories: AI assistant is designed to help you get work done. AI advisor in the middle is to help you get the most important data for you to make decisions. And the third thing is we understand that every business is different, every organization is different. Therefore, we allow you to have the capability to tailor-make NetSuite AI based on your practice itself. So we want to also focus, right, not just about the future, but to all our customers, all our prospects, organizations out there, what is already available in practice, implemented for organizations. And one of the big and truly important update is the Intelligent Close Manager, which has several components of AI inside. The first is, if you look at this screenshot, for the finance and accounting team, this is truly changing the landscape of closing the books. We now give you the capability and also the visibility, in fact, to know exactly where you are in the close process. We call this continuous closing. We don't now have to wait until the end of the month, end of the quarter, and then rush through this process. We can do this anytime as you progress along, guided by AI with the supported workflows. With the 39% in the middle of the screen, this tells you that that's where you are in terms of the close process. Next question is, what's happening to the remaining 61%, right? And that's where we give the users capability to know exactly what are the outstanding tasks. We have Gen AI giving you narrative, explaining some of the context of the closing process itself. And the next important innovation is about exceptions. We call this the NetSuite Exception Management. It does two things, and two very important things only. The first is it has the capability to look through your business data and tell you, for example, you have an invoice, items in the invoice. All of the items are showing 5 units. And for whatever reason, one of the line item is showing 500 units. This is an anomaly, and very likely the AI will detect that this is likely a typo, right? It prompts the user, and the user will make then the decision to see, oh, I think, yes, I accidentally entered an extra 20. That's one example. The second example is to detect frequency of transactions. Every month I have example utility bills, say $1,000. We are now in May, and for whatever reason, the May transaction of $1,000 didn't appear. This is an anomaly in terms of a missing transaction. Exception management will point this out to the user to take special attention, right, to fix this. It's very likely an error on missing transaction. Another innovative AI example is narrative insights. All of us are used to looking at income statement, looking at balance sheets, looking at sales reports, numbers, right? But with narrative insights, with a click of a button, it now tells you a story for that report. Example, this income statement, what are the top 5 findings, right? What is the trend of the revenue growth? What are the key risks? And explain in plain English so that the context of looking at the report itself can in fact be a conversation during management meetings or brainstorming sessions, right? So this is the narrative insight powered by generative AI. Okay, this is NetSuite AI Connector Service. This is what we call also bring your own AI and connect it with your NetSuite ERP. For example, users who are familiar with Claude AI, users who are familiar with ChatGPT, you can now connect these two chatbots to NetSuite AI. What it does is it respects your existing access control, your rights, your roles, and then you now, instead of going into NetSuite, running reports, running safe searches, looking at dashboards, you now have another option. You interact with NetSuite ERP through your chat, right? And this is an example. Give me a snapshot of my balance sheet. It does more than show you a balance sheet. It also tells you, explain to you what are the key findings of this balance sheet. It gives you insights. Right? So we're all very, very excited with this new tool. We've got so many customers giving positive feedback because it fundamentally changes how we interact with the ERP now. So complementing NetSuite AI connector services is the add-on companion. Instead of crafting, right, prompts each time to work with your LLM, we now have a library, over 100 in fact, of these sample prompts tailored based on different departments, different, let's say, profitability, inventory, and other trend analysis. Copy these prompts and run it through the LLM itself. It will produce the expected format and result that you need. Also, we understand, right? We talk about tailoring the prompt itself. Of course, you can also tailor make the prompt from this standard out-of-the-box prompts. So just a teaser on what's already available. I'm picking 4 or 5 earlier. There's a lot more already in place. And we are also excited by what's in the near horizon, the next edition of NetSuite Next, which is all these capabilities, right? I'll just pick 1 or 2 to talk about. The first one earlier, we showed the option of using your own LLM to talk to NetSuite. In the next edition, we have an embedded conversational AI within the ERP itself. Then we have the second one, agentic workflows that you can use straight out of the box, or you can also configure more agentic workflows based on your organization's practice, and a lot more. So to give you a preview of what the NetSuite Next looks like, this is the new UI running on the Redwood design. It's an income statement. Now at the bottom right corner, I just run this demo. I can interact with my ERP through plain conversation by asking what is my gross profit in, let's say, this financial year FY25 compared to the previous year. It runs the searches, it runs the prompt, brings up the relevant insight for my consumption based on my role. In this case, is presenting a chart. I can interact with this data further. The best part is all the data that is presented in the result is actually grounded by NetSuite data. This is a proof that the figures summarized come from a specific field, come from a specific calculation, a specific logic that is retrieved from NetSuite data. That's why earlier I mentioned data is so important, right, to produce the kind of insight that you want to run your business. And yeah, there are so many other examples that I can't wait to share with you, maybe in the next session. So with that, I would like to conclude my short presentation. The key takeaway is important to have a strong AI strategy, and those are better if it's grounded by business data coming from the ERP itself. Yeah, so hope you find that useful. Passing the session back to Ayu.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Dr. Kenny, for your insightful presentation about AI capabilities now in NetSuite. Now, again, I would like to call both of our distinguished speakers, Davinder and Dr. Kenny, to join with me on the stage, which is turn on your camera again, because now let's move into our Q&A session. please keep your questions coming in through the Q&A chat. And I will read the questions one by one, which is actually already answered by Davinder. But yes, we can discuss it together, Davinder and Dr. Kenny. So the first question coming from Fatih. Fatih asking about our month end close currently takes about 2 weeks. How specifically does NetSuite's Intelligent Close Manager help reduce that? And what does the team's workflow look like once it is in place? Yeah, probably Davinder, you can answer it first.
Sure. So I think I just put it into chat, right? Rather than looking at the intelligent close manager immediately, what we can also do is that we can actually look at what Dr. Kenny shared with us. I noticed that internally we always use a lot of acronyms, FEM. So I typed the full word there, right? Financial exception management. So that's FEM. And what financial exception management is basically before you do the close, right? So normally what's happening is that, 20th, 21st, 22nd, you start to do your closing. Then, you try to call let's say, for example, subsidiary A, subsidiary B, different finance managers and tell them, hey, have you posted all the right transactions that you need to post? Because HQ is asking me to do month-end closing. So rather than you needing to manually call different people, what financial exception management does is that it analyzes the financial data and then it tells you, for example, journal entry number 1, 2, 3. Normally every month, let's say, for example, it's $1,000. But for some reason, user ABC, maybe finance manager in subsidiary number 1, has posted it for $100,000. So the financial exception management flags that as an exception. It tags it. It says, hey, Davinder has posted this, and maybe, for example, Ayu, if you want to do your closing, you need to assess this. So this means that we assess the data before you even need to do the closing. So errors before closing, we can actually start to look at it in a centralized areas. But I think the next one is expected transactions. I need to post let's say, for example, my insurance. I need to post my expenses. I need to do my accruals. I need to do my deferred journal entries. So these are, again, transactions that FEM can look at and then start to prompt you to say that these are these are things that are missing from subsidiary A or subsidiary B or subsidiary C. And hopefully that's going to actually reduce your need to continuously manually chase people.
I see. Dr. Kenny, you want to add some more information?
Just one point. The term continuous accounting basically says that we don't all have to wait until the month end, the few days or week before the month end. We can already start this continuous closing process earlier, so that we are not pressured. We have the visibility into the data itself. Technology shows us where the problem area is and fix it early.
Okay, cool. Okay, I will read the second question. Yeah, we have, sorry, this is the question from Fabia. Fabi asks, we have a lot of manual journal entries at the month end. Can the AI flag unusual or out of period entries before they get posted, or only after? Probably back again to Davinder to explain.
Yeah, so I think we can copy paste, right? Copy paste the response that we actually had earlier. For those transactions that need to go in and it's actually a manual journal entry. So one way is, of course, to look at financial exception management, and then it will identify that you haven't posted these transactions. Now, but we also need to look at maybe core standard NetSuite. Core standard NetSuite has functionalities called memorized transactions. So this is where maybe Fabi, you could also look at a memorized transaction for your journal entry. Set it to maybe recurring. You can also use it as a template. And in that sense, right, then at least it will allow you to do that posting automatically if you need to. There's also some additional functionalities in NetSuite's advanced financials where you can actually do amortization and so forth in order to actually help you with those manual journal entries. So maybe that's a conversation that we're more than happy to take on after this as well.
All right, sure. Dr. Kenny, you want to add some more?
Great answer. Nothing to add.
Okay. I think sorry, this would be the last question. Yeah. Guys, if you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, to Davinder, to Dr. Kenny, or any one of us here. We will drop you guys an email after this webinar. Yeah. So the last question would be from Jenny Chung. Jenny asking about, just now Davinder showcased a module having the AI integration to import vendor bill. Is that a ready-made module plugin that we can try on straight away, or it's a customized project and there's no trial version yet? Davinder, I think you have to
Yep.
answer this.
Yeah, so it's a long conversation, and my boss would love it that we could sit down and then speak to all our clients, prospects, and partners. But in summary, right, what we're trying to do is that we're trying to actually make use of AI outside of just a chat, right? So what we're trying to do is that we're trying to parse AI data pass your transactional data into AI so that it can actually do something more. So we looked at the vendor bill mapping. A little bit different than the normal RPA because we don't normally map it. It actually AI maps it for us and then looks at discrepancies. So, Jenny, in terms of that, right, this is something that we are building internally. We would still need to actually have a conversation because this is the part that sometimes people get a bit worried about. The concept of the services that we need to render, we're actually using AI tokens, and therefore that AI token conversation needs to actually go a little bit further. But I'm pretty sure that we'll reach out to you so that we can actually take that conversation a lot more further and in depth.
All right then. Yeah, thanks Jenny Chung for your question. And yeah, I think that will be it. But before we say goodbye to our speakers here, we would love to take a quick virtual group photo. So all of you guys now, I hope that you guys can turn on your camera and we can take a photo together with our speakers and all of you guys here. Yeah. Okay, so let's do this. Yeah, on my count, yeah. Yes. Okay, on my count. Okay, ready? Okay. 3, 2, 1, smile. Okay. I think this is the first page, yeah. I asked my team. The second one, I think we should do one more time. 3, 2, 1, cheers. All right. All good? Okay, done. Okay, I think that's enough. I think, yeah. All right. Okay, thank you so much everyone for joining the session, and of course thank you so much for Dr. Kenny and Davinder and Michelle for joining this webinar as our distinguished speakers. I hope we found the today's session is very insightful and valuable. And just to remind you guys that this recording and the slides presentation will be sent to your email shortly. And don't forget to check our website, psglobalconsulting.com, and connect with us on our social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And stay tuned for more exciting webinars and events in the future. Until next time, stay connected, stay integrated. I'm IU MC for today, signing off. Bye-bye.